As we grow older, something shifts deep within us. We begin to crave peace over noise, authenticity over appearances and relationships that nourish rather than drain. But what happens when the very people we call family start stealing our joy instead of supporting it? In this eye-opening video, you'll discover 6 types of relatives you must protect yourself from after 60. Some may surprise you. One may even shock you. But by the end, you'll learn how to set boundaries, reclaim your energy, and preserve the dignity and freedom you've earned in your golden years. Before we begin, please give this video a like and subscribe. It really helps me keep going and create more for you. 1. The drama queen relative. As we step gently into the later chapters of our lives, we come to understand a profound truth. Peace is not a luxury, it is a form of medicine. It nourishes the heart, steadies the breath, and grants clarity to a mind that has seen too many storms. For many seniors, the pursuit of peace becomes more sacred than ambition ever was in youth. And yet, even in this quieter season, some people bring the turbulence of earlier years crashing into our days. Often these are not strangers, they are family. We all know one, the relative whose every sentence ends in conflict, whose every minor inconvenience explodes into a drama that sucks the oxygen from the room. This is the drama queen, and while age may soften many, it rarely quiets the one who feeds off emotional chaos. Their presence is a storm disguised as conversation, a crisis cloaked in kinship. At first, you may have thought it was just personality. You may have forgiven the outbursts, smiled through the arguments, tolerated the tears. But with time and the wisdom that aging bestows, you begin to realize the price of staying in their orbit. Every episode leaves behind not just emotional fatigue, but real physiological consequences. Medical science now tells us what our hearts have long whispered: chronic stress is a silent destroyer. It raises blood pressure, accelerates heart disease, weakens immune function, and contributes to memory loss. For the elderly who already carry the weight of decades on their shoulders, these effects are not abstract, they are deeply personal and potentially devastating. As a geriatric specialist, I've witnessed firsthand how emotional environments impact physical outcomes. A patient who lives with calm may show better cognitive function, steadier blood pressure, and even more resilient moods. Contrast that with someone who is surrounded by emotional upheaval. We see fatigue, anxiety, sleep disruption, and a gradual erosion of vitality. The drama queen relative may not mean harm, but intention is not the same as impact. Their constant crises divert your energy away from healing and toward harm. And in these years, when every day is a gift, when each moment with loved ones carries deeper meaning, you cannot afford to squander your peace. What then is the solution? It is not cruelty or isolation. It is not a cold shoulder or angry confrontation. It is boundaries. Thoughtful, firm, compassionate boundaries. Boundaries are how you protect your emotional immune system. They are how you say, "I love you, but I cannot walk into this storm with you again." It is the recognition that not every fight requires your participation, not every emotional fire needs your water. Sometimes the wisest act of love is stepping back. I often advise older adults to visualize their emotional space as a sacred home. You would not leave your doors open in the middle of a storm. You would not allow someone to walk in with muddy shoes and damage your sanctuary. The same principle applies to your spirit. When the drama begins, whether it's through a phone call, a family gathering, or a subtle manipulation pause, breathe, exit if you must. You are not obligated to absorb anyone else's storm. This is not selfishness, it is self-preservation. And self-preservation, especially in your golden years, is not only justified, it is wise. As Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once observed, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You cannot change the personality of your relative, but you can change your proximity to their chaos. You can choose stillness over noise. You can protect the rhythm of your heart, the serenity of your mind. Life after 60 should not be a battlefield of other people's tempests. It should be a season of celebration of what you built, who you've loved, and the wisdom you've earned. Surround yourself with those who honor that journey, not those who make you relive old wounds. Because at this stage of life, tranquility is not something to wish for. It is something you've earned, and it is something you have every right to keep. 2. The money leech relative. There is a quiet dignity in growing old, a grace in having worked hard, saved diligently, and arrived at a point in life where your time is finally your own. For many older adults, retirement is not merely an escape from labor. It is an invitation to rest, to reflect, and to live freely on their own terms. Yet amid this well-earned freedom, there are those who threaten to rob you, not with malice, not with violence, but with need. Persistent, bottomless need. They are the money leech relatives. You may recognize them. They appear with stories of misfortune, lost jobs, overdue bills, failed ventures, medical emergencies. At first, your heart responds naturally. You give. Once, maybe twice. But kindness, when taken for granted, becomes currency for manipulation. And slowly, what was once a gesture of love turns into a recurring transaction that drains not just your bank account, but your peace of mind. From a medical perspective, this matters more than people realize. Financial stress among the elderly is strongly correlated with anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances, and even cognitive decline. Studies show that older adults under financial pressure are at a greater risk of chronic illness. And when your retirement fund starts disappearing into someone else's hands, the consequences are not just financial, they are physical and emotional as well. Let me share the story of one of my patients, Robert. A former school teacher, Robert spent 40 years shaping young minds and saving every dollar he could. He retired with modest comfort and a dream to see the world. But his younger brother, Kevin, had other plans. First, he needed a loan for a business idea. Then came help with rent, a car, repair, and emergency surgery. Robert, generous and trusting, kept giving. By the time he was 75, his savings were nearly gone. His travel dreams dissolved. Kevin had quietly moved on to another relative. What Robert learned too late is something I now tell my patients often. Generosity without boundaries is not kindness, it is self-neglect. This is not to say we should become hardened. Family's important, but support must come with wisdom. Giving guidance, offering emotional encouragement, connecting someone to job opportunities, these are forms of support that uplift without depleting. But habitual financial enabling that leads only to imbalance and resentment. If you are being financially leaned on, ask yourself honestly, are they trying to grow, or are they using you as a safety net to avoid growth? Because many of these relatives are not looking for help, they are looking for rescue, and rescue repeated too often becomes dependency. Worse still, it often breeds entitlement. Here's the truth: you are no longer earning at the pace you once were. Your retirement fund is not infinite. Every dollar you give away is a dollar you may need for your health, your home, your joy. And let's not forget, aging comes with unpredictable costs, medications, caregivers, emergency treatments. You must protect the future version of yourself just as fiercely as you protected your family in the past. That protection begins with one powerful word: no. Say it with compassion, but say it firmly. You do not owe anyone an explanation. If guilt is thrown at you, but we're family, remind yourself true family supports, they do not drain. True love does not exploit. In Stoic teaching, we learn that our peace lies in the things within our control. You cannot control someone else's poor financial choices, but you can control whether or not you fund them. You can choose to stop being a lifeline for someone who refuses to swim. So how do you help if not with money share knowledge? Recommend financial counselors. Encourage accountability. But draw the line clearly, kindly, and without shame. There is no virtue in sacrificing your stability to preserve someone else's chaos. And there is no wisdom in funding failure while postponing your own dreams. You have worked too long and too hard to let guilt guide your golden years. Retirement should be about freedom, not fear, about joy, not just survival. And so if you must choose between enabling someone else's poor decisions and protecting your own peace, I urge you choose peace. Because just as your time is now precious, so too is your financial well-being. Guard it. With love, with wisdom, and with strength. You've earned every bit of it. If you find this content meaningful, give it a like. Share it with friends and support us by subscribing. It means the world. 3. The always right relative. In the tapestry of aging, one of the greatest treasures is self-assurance. The calm confidence that comes from decades of decisions, mistakes, wisdom, and lived experience. By the time you reach your 60s and beyond, you have learned the value of silence over shouting, understanding over proving, and peace over ego. And yet there always seems to be that one relative, the self-appointed oracle, who insists on reminding you that they know best. About your life, your body, your decisions. They are the always right relative. Their presence may not come with raised voices or direct insults, but with something far more corrosive, quiet condescension. They comment on the foods you eat, the medications you take, the way you spend your time. They question your choices with thinly veiled judgment, offering unsolicited advice as if your life were still open to their supervision. This may seem on the surface like an inconvenience, but over time, these small daily frictions can evolve into deep emotional bruises. I've seen it time and again: elders who begin to second-guess their instincts, shrink from expressing their preferences, and quietly surrender to the authority of someone else's opinion. And in this surrender, a slow erosion of self begins. Make no mistake, self-doubt is not a trivial affliction in old age. From a geriatric perspective, it can be deeply damaging. Doubt leads to passivity. Passivity leads to disengagement. And disengagement from life, be it in conversation, decision-making, or personal health, is one of the earliest predictors of decline. You see, confidence isn't just psychological, it's biological. Studies show that older adults who feel in control of their lives are more likely to maintain their independence, adhere to medical regimens, and engage in social activities. The inverse is also true. Feeling overridden, dismissed, or chronically corrected chips away at motivation, self-esteem, and even immune resilience. So what do we do with a relative who simply can't let us own our choices? We begin not with confrontation, but with clarity. Let them speak, not if you must. But remind yourself silently and firmly, my life is not a committee. You do not owe them compliance, nor do you need to enter debates just to prove your worth. A simple, powerful phrase can work wonders. I appreciate your perspective, but I trust my own judgment. This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. It's a declaration that the years you've lived have given you something no outsider can measure: the right to choose your own path. And if their presence continues to breed discomfort or tension, it's okay, yes, truly okay, to distance yourself. Not in anger, but in protection. You are not required to be accessible to anyone who constantly makes you feel small. As the poet and activist Maya Angelou once wrote, never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. Consider this deeply. Are you prioritizing the emotional comfort of someone who never pauses to consider yours? The truth is, the older you grow, the less you owe in explanations. You have nothing to prove. The arc of your life, the lessons you've learned, the regrets you've overcome, the joys you've created, is evidence enough of your strength and discernment. From a clinical lens, I can tell you, this confidence is not a luxury in old age. It's a protective factor. It helps you advocate for your own care, stand firm in relationships, and resist the slow creep of dependency. To preserve that confidence, you must guard it from those who chip away at it, even if they do so with a smile and good intentions. So let this be your affirmation. You are not wrong for choosing differently. You are not unreasonable for expecting respect. You are not selfish for wanting to live your way. In the end, your life belongs to you, not to those who constantly question it. Let your golden years be ruled by your inner compass, not the noise of outside judgment. You've earned the right to live authentically, boldly, and most importantly, on your own terms. 4. The guilt trip relative. There is a unique weight to the kind of guilt that grows over years, not from wrongdoing, but from the subtle manipulation of someone who knows exactly how to press the softest parts of your heart. This weight often takes the shape of a relative, a person who, instead of offering you support, trades in emotional debt, who reminds you of all they've done for you so that you'll feel compelled to do for them again and again. This is the guilt trip relative. They don't yell. They don't make demands directly. They speak in sighs and carefully chosen phrases like, "After everything I've done for you," or "I guess I'm just not important anymore." At first, it may seem harmless, a moment of emotional need, but over time, their words become tools shaped not to connect but to control. And the more you respond to that control, the more it tightens around your life. As a geriatrician, I've watched many older adults fall into this trap. They sacrifice rest, stretch their finances, alter their routines, not out of love freely given, but out of guilt deeply planted. They say yes when they mean no. They show up when they should stay home. And slowly, quietly, their own joy begins to recede. This is not only emotional, it becomes physical. Chronic guilt is linked with increased stress hormones, suppressed immune function, and higher rates of insomnia and fatigue in older adults. The body keeps score, especially when the mind is burdened with constant emotional negotiations. Let me be clear, love should never come with a receipt. If someone uses their past kindness to extract present obedience, that is not love, it is manipulation. And manipulation, even when sugar-coated with phrases like, "I just miss you," or "I thought you cared," is still manipulation. One of my patients, Maria, exemplified this. A retired nurse with a heart of gold, she had helped raise her younger sister's children. In her later years, all she wanted was to spend her mornings in quiet prayer and her afternoons tending to her garden. But her sister kept calling, asking her to babysit, run errands, lend money. And whenever Maria hesitated, the guilt came. If Mom were alive, she'd be so disappointed in you. So Maria said yes, over and over again, until one day she fainted from exhaustion in the garden she once loved. Her body finally said what her heart had been too gentle to say enough. From that moment on, Maria made a choice, one I now encourage in every elder I work with: choose self-respect over guilt. Guilt is a feeling, not a moral compass. It does not always mean you've done wrong. Often it simply means someone is unhappy that you've drawn a boundary they can no longer cross. Here's what I remind my patients: saying no is not a betrayal. It is an act of maturity, of wisdom, of survival, and you do not need to justify that no. You are allowed to prioritize your peace without explaining why. When the guilt trip begins, take a breath. Remind yourself, I am not responsible for anyone else's emotions. If someone is disappointed by your healthy boundary, that is their lesson to learn, not your burden to carry. It's also important to recognize this: by freeing yourself from emotional obligation, you open the door to genuine connection. When your presence is no longer based on guilt, it becomes a true gift, not a transaction. You're no longer visiting out of duty, but out of choice, and choice is where love lives. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The guilt that others place upon you, that is an outside event. What you do with it, that is your power. You have lived long enough to understand what matters: time, health, connection, peace. These things are too sacred to be bartered away for approval. You are not selfish for protecting them. You are wise. So if someone tries to make you feel guilty for choosing rest, joy, or distance, hear them, but do not absorb them. Their pain is not proof of your wrongdoing, and your happiness is not a debt that needs to be repaid. Let your later years be free from invisible chains. Give when you want, not when you feel trapped. Help from love, not from fear. And remember, true love never asks you to diminish yourself to prove it exists. At this point, what have you learned? Drop a comment sharing what resonates with you the most. Who knows, your reflection might inspire someone else. 5. The toxic caretaker. Relative. Not all dangers in old age arrive with malice. Some come dressed as concern, wrapped in affection, and presented as care. But when care crosses the invisible line into control, when help begins to suffocate rather than support it, becomes something else entirely. It becomes toxic. And when this comes from a family member, the damage runs deep. This is the toxic caretaker relative. You see, one of the most sacred aspects of aging is autonomy, the right to direct your own life, to make your own choices, to retain the dignity that has carried you through decades. Losing mobility, eyesight, or even energy may be part of growing old, but the loss of agency, that is not a requirement. That is a theft. The toxic caretaker is often not seen as a threat at first. They step in willingly. They cook your meals, organize your appointments, handle your prescriptions. And yes, sometimes their presence feels like a relief, but slowly, quietly, they begin to override you. They insist on choosing your doctors, deciding who you should spend time with, even dictating when you should rest or what you should eat. You hear phrases like, "You shouldn't be doing that alone," or "I know what's best for you." And one day you realize you've stopped arguing. You've stopped choosing. You've stopped living on your own terms. As a geriatrician, I know this erosion is not just emotional, it's clinical. Loss of decision-making power in elderly adults is associated with increased rates of depression, cognitive decline, and even shorter lifespan. Studies have shown that older adults who maintain a sense of control, regardless of physical limitations, report higher life satisfaction and improved health outcomes. Consider Samuel, a former patient of mine. At 75, he was mentally sharp and physically modest in his needs. His niece moved in wanting to help. At first it was a blessing, but soon Samuel noticed decisions were being made without him. She canceled his lunch plans, changed his medications without asking, and discouraged him from walking outside. "It's for your own good," she'd say. Within months, Samuel withdrew. His energy declined. He began doubting his own memory, his own abilities. He felt small in a home that used to be his kingdom. Eventually, with the support of a care team, Samuel reclaimed his independence. He hired a professional caregiver trained to empower, not control. He began making his own appointments, again chose his own meals, and set boundaries with his niece. The change was dramatic. His mood lifted, his engagement returned, and most importantly, his dignity was restored. Because here is what we must understand: help that dismisses your voice is not help, it is domination. And domination, no matter how gentle its tone, is deeply harmful to the aging soul. So how do you recognize a toxic caretaker? Do they make you feel incapable even when you're not? Do they speak for you instead of with you? Do they frame your choices as mistakes? Do they get defensive when you try to assert your preferences? If the answer is yes, it's time to reclaim your space. Start small. Insist on making one decision a day: what to eat, what to wear, when to go for a walk. Then speak up when something feels wrong. You don't have to be loud, you just have to be clear. And if necessary, seek help beyond family. There are social workers, elder advocates, and caregivers trained to offer support that respects your autonomy. Family doesn't always mean qualified, and love doesn't always mean understanding. You are not a burden. You are not a project to be managed. You are a full, capable human being with decades of wisdom deserving of respect. Stoic wisdom reminds us that strength lies in governance of self, of will of spirit. Even when the body changes, the right to govern yourself remains. So ask yourself gently but honestly, am I living by my choices or by someone else's decisions? Because old age should not be a slow surrender. It should be a quiet, defiant celebration of all the ways you've stayed standing. And no one, no matter how loving, has the right to take that away from you. Your life is still yours. Let no one forget that, especially not you. Suenir 6. The perfect image. Relative in the golden years of life, after the striving and proving, are meant to fade after the race has been run, and the trophies stored away. One would imagine the finish line offers rest, reflection, and relief. But for some, even in old age, the shadow of comparison lingers, and it is often cast by someone closer relative who seems to have it all and makes sure you know it. This is the perfect image relative. You recognize them instantly. They arrive at family gatherings as if stepping off the cover of a lifestyle magazine. Their smiles are polished, their stories rehearsed, their life a constant parade of highlight reels. The children are gifted the vacations, exotic, the home immaculate. Every conversation loops back to another accomplishment, another symbol of success. And you, sitting quietly with your simpler joys, may begin to wonder, did I do enough? Was my life meaningful? Have I fallen short? Let me say this clearly, you have not. As a geriatrician, I've seen how dangerous this subtle form of social comparison can be. It's not loud, it's not cruel, but it's persistent. It erodes confidence, it dampens joy, it replaces gratitude with inadequacy. And for older adults, this can be deeply harmful, not just emotionally, but physiologically. Research shows that negative social comparison in aging populations is linked to increased anxiety, depression, and even cognitive decline. When elders begin to believe their life was less than, they disengage from meaningful activities. They withdraw. They grow silent. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they start believing their story isn't worth telling. This is a tragic lie. The truth is, the perfect image relative is often a performance. What they present, the curated photos, the success stories, the flawless living room may not reflect the full truth. Behind every perfect image is a hidden cost, a filtered version of life where struggle is omitted and only applause is shared. But you, in contrast, have something far more valuable: authenticity. You have raised families in imperfect homes. You have weathered financial storms, health crises, loss, heartbreak, and yet you stand. You have built a life not for show, but for love, for duty, for quiet joy. Your grandchildren may not win awards, but they come to you for warmth. Your travels may not be posted online, but the stories you carry could fill volumes. That is not failure. That is richness of another kind. Comparison, especially in old age, is a thief. It robs you of the ability to savor the life you've actually lived. It pulls your attention away from your garden, your books, your morning tea, and fixes it instead on what someone else is flaunting. But their image is not your mirror, and your worth is not defined by applause. So how do you protect yourself? You begin by disengaging from the game. You stop matching stories. You don't need to pretend your joys are bigger or louder. Let them be small and sacred. When your relative starts listing their accolades, smile. Let them have their moment, but internally return to your center, your peace, your truth. Remind yourself, I am not here to impress. I am here to live. One of my patients, Geraldine, once told me something I've never forgotten. After listening to her cousin boast about her latest international cruise, she simply said, "I took a walk today with my old dog. The lilacs are blooming. That was enough. It was more than enough." You see, life isn't a competition, it's a composition. A melody only you can write. And every quiet decision, every unseen act of kindness, every ordinary day, filled with love, that's your legacy. Let go of the pressure to perform. You have nothing left to prove. The years you've lived, the people you've loved, the battles you've fought, those are your achievements. And they are profound. So the next time the perfect image relative walks in with their perfectly tailored story nod, listen if you want, then return home to your own story, unfiltered, unpolished, but deeply, beautifully real. Because in the final accounting of life, it is not the perfection of the image that matters. It is the depth of the soul behind it. And yours, my dear reader, is rich beyond measure. Thank you for joining us on this important journey of protecting your peace and well-being in your golden years. Remember, you have every right to choose joy, set boundaries, and surround yourself with those who truly uplift you. If this video resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And for more heartfelt guidance, practical wisdom, and empowering stories to help you thrive after 60, be sure to subscribe to Wisdom of Elderly. Your next chapter deserves clarity, strength, and serenity, and we're here to walk it with you.